promised land.
Human progress is neither automatic nor inevitable. Welcome to WatchMojo.com, and today we'll be learning more about the history of the American Civil Rights Movement. The end of the American Civil War in 1865 effectively meant the end of slavery, but African Americans were in for a long struggle before they were finally awarded equal rights. As of 1870, all eligible male citizens were able to vote. However, blacks were discouraged by violence and eventually legal stipulations. In 1896, the Supreme Court ruled to maintain racial segregation in private businesses, in a case called Plessy v. Ferguson. Soon broadened to include schools, many southern states applied this separate but equal mentality to all aspects of life. However, this led to the application of Jim Crow laws, which resulted in blacks being treated as second-class citizens. Segregated schools, public transit, restrooms, water fountains, and more continued well into the 1900s.
What up, though? It's your guy, Jack the Mac, man. Happy Martin Luther King Day to everybody out there, man. Everybody that celebrates and the people that don't celebrate. That's extremely unfortunate. I'm sorry for you, you know. Bro asked me what does Martin Luther King Day mean to me. It means a lot to me because I was definitely raised around a lot of culture. So I understood the magnitude behind all of that, you know what I mean? What Martin Luther King went through so we could have a vote. That's the only reason why I vote, because of Martin Luther King, you know what I mean? He's an extremely powerful individual, well-spoken man. And man, my hat's off to that guy. And Malcolm X and Huey P. Newton and the rest of all the rest of the guys as well, man. So, non-violence, violence, it don't matter, man. As long as we sticking together, moving as a unit, moving as people. Alright, I love y'all. Happy Martin Luther King Day. The magnificent Jack the Mac. Peace.
Oh, shit. What up, though? Martin Luther King Day, MLK Day is a big thing, you know, but at the end of the day, Martin Luther King had a different vision that changed everybody. And then towards the end of his life, like if you look at that one documentary that I seen, The Mountaintop, you know what I'm saying, you start realizing, like, my thing is like, we don't want to put everybody in a fucking bubble, but it's a lot of people that's doing some fucked up shit, and for what? Like, we've had motherfuckers that lost their lives, did some bullshit to get to where we at right now. And we owe it to ourselves, our people, our whatever, to get that shit right. So, wake your ass up, motherfucker. That's it.
Dark Toledo beer, Dark Toledo. Salute, man. Y'all have a great day.
Hey. Wow. Being that I was raised by a little black guy from the south side of Chicago, right? And Roy Wilson, my man, salute, my pops. I think this MLK thing means peaceful protest. It means, segregation. Why? I also understand what Malcolm X did too. Also, he was like, by any means, you go against the motherfucking grain. But it's MLK. You say this is his day, and we are to do that. So I don't know. I was raised in a conundrum of a lot of different things. You know what I'm saying? But it's peaceful protest is that thing, and I agree with it. I agree with that. But if you gotta go against the grain, you go against the grain. And I guess I close it out like this. You know what I mean? I'm gonna drink this water. I'm gonna give it to my brother. He gonna drink that water. You understand me? He gonna give it to that brother. He gonna drink that water. He might be sick. I don't know. Ain't no white and black motherfucking water faucets, baby. Motherfucker. Happy MLK, man. Love everybody. That was a good one. That was pretty cool. I'm sweet.
What's up, man? Well, y'all already know, like, for me it meant a lot because I seen where my people came from. And, I got great grandparents that were still living that actually taught me about it. And for to see the success that it did come to, it's a beautiful thing, man. And as long as we can all come together peacefully, it can still continue change and spark change in today's society. Because right now, you know what I mean, that's what it really needs to be. And with that being said, y'all have a safe one, peace one, happy.
United States to open in the fall of 1955. Encouraged by the decision, the civil rights movement began to hold high-profile boycotts, marches, sit-ins, and other peaceful protests. These included 1955's Montgomery bus boycott in support of Rosa Parks. A watershed moment came in 1957 when a high school in Arkansas admitted a group of African American students nicknamed the Little Rock Nine.
60 seconds on what the civil rights movement meant to you.
The civil rights movement meant to me, obviously, it meant being able to do this that we're doing, you know what I mean? But I feel it could have went a different way, could have went a different route. I was rooting more for Malcolm than Martin. I feel like the civil rights movement was more of like setup. You know what I'm saying? Like more of like, you know, we're gonna go with Martin because he's less violent and less like confrontational. You know what I'm saying? So it's like just give them what they want, but not all of it. Malcolm wanted everything for everybody. You know what I'm saying? And that's just how I feel about it. I don't really know. Obviously, it came out good for everybody. You know, everybody of color. I just think it's all government. I'm a conspiracy theorist, you know, so that's my take on the civil rights movement. You know what I mean? But shout outs to everybody involved, you know what I'm saying? We out here voting, we doing the best. We out here black and brown, yellow, purple, white, don't matter, man. We out here doing the same thing. So, you know, shout outs to everybody out here, man.
Protested by fellow students, the governor, and even the state's National Guard, President Dwight Eisenhower eventually intervened to ensure the students' safe passage. By 1962, universities also began integrating, though black students were still met with protests and violence.
The civil rights movement meant to me was supposed to mean change. Definitely there's not a lot of change still going on, but I mean, it was supposed to be the difference of what impacted the world till today with, you know, things that we still deal with, we still, you know, have to handle with. It was supposed to be the change of two colors coming together and acting like just a human race and not no longer segregating themselves from apple pie or a glass of water or anything, going to the bathroom. That's really what it meant to me, but definitely we do still deal with things. You know, Martin Luther King's Day today. Proud African American and just, yeah, that's what the civil rights movement meant to me. Need some more.
He remained an influential and controversial human rights activist until his assassination in 1965. The murders of civil rights leaders continued when Martin Luther King Jr. was killed in April 1968 and Robert Kennedy 2 months later. Despite racial tensions continuing into the 1990s, progress has been measurable. The election of President Barack Obama in 2008 is seen by many to be a culmination of centuries of work in favor of racial equality.
Rights movement, huh? Right. Being out from Mississippi, civil rights movement meant a lot to me just because in a lot of ways we wouldn't be where we are at this very second. I mean, if it wasn't for people like Martin Luther King, Rosa Parks, I mean, even to the Black Panther movement, Huey P. Newton and his peoples, we would not be where we are standing today. We still be down where the folks want us. So, happy Martin Luther King Day, and shout out to AZ, man.
Awesome, thank you.
With the white man, but they're dissatisfied with these Negroes who have been sitting around here posing as leaders and spokesmen for black people and actually making the problem worse instead of making the problem better.
Man, to say, well, what the civil rights movement meant to me, it's a peaceful movement. It helped a lot. It helped all the African Americans, and it's still going on today. You know, I'm only 26 years old, and I know a lot about it. And, you know, I'm gonna teach my children the same thing, and I hope they teach their children the same thing. Shout out to Dr. Martin Luther King and the whole civil rights movement. It's the best thing going. And everybody should get in on it. Get in on it real fast, man. It's good. Much love.
Appreciate you.
What's up? Nigga, you close your eyes and you wake up. That's what happens. Fuck is you talking about? Yeah, Darcy, you don't get your mother.
This is the meaning of our liberty and our creed, why men and women and children of every race and every faith can join in celebration across this magnificent mall, and why a man whose father less than 60 years ago might not have been served at a local restaurant can now stand before you to take a most sacred oath.
How you doing with Mr. West? I just want to get 60 seconds of what MLK Day means to you. Or the Civil Rights Movement. 60 seconds of what the Civil Rights Movement.
60 seconds, man. I can sum it. It only had to take me 60, man. At the end of the day, they laid the groundwork for us to be business owners and be able to do what we want to do and understand how our dollar is more important than anything. And, you know, I just hope that in the near future that the MLK days become a day where we can sit down and put some money together and start black businesses and businesses throughout, you know, the urban cities and get people jobs. But it would have never been done if they didn't get out there and put the groundwork in March. It's your boy Charlie West, man. God bless.
Yep.
So, Planet Paul here from Atlanta, Georgia, Bankhead on the west side, that's Zone 1. And where I'm from, MLK Day is a staple in the community and all around the state. And it's good to know that we're out here on the west coast that it's still being celebrated and businesses are still shutting down and they're celebrating that. What's sad is, and it is my birthday as well, that what he represented and what he marched for and what he spoke on is being disrespected today by so many young black people and older black people. My generation as well. The civil liberties that they marched for and fought for, we shit on every single day. It need to be a reminder of what we need to be doing to help each other in our communities and helping each other to learn and to grow and helping the young minds. Because I think for generations like me being 34 today, we set in our ways, you know what I mean? So what it needs to be is a constant reminder for us to remind the youth of what we fought for and what we stand for and how they are dishonoring that today.
Thank you, brother. Good looking.
Yes, sir. Brother. Wow, A-Town.
Happy birthday, bro.
Appreciate it. Happy birthday, Dr. King, man.
Yes,
we out
sir.
here.
Yes, sir.
Easy.
MLK Day, man. This day right here means everything to all of us, people of this nationality, you know what I'm saying? We stay strong. It means that we powerful people, you know what I'm saying? We done came a long way. We done fought through a whole lot. Look, we even had a black president. So what that tell you? We can overcome everything. Anything and everything that we put our mind to, we can overcome it. So do that on this MLK Day. You feel me? Holla back. Love.
Check it, man. MLK Day, Civil Rights Movement. This is what it mean to me.
in order for me to breathe, eat, live, sleep, do what I've been doing for the last 38 years of my life. You know what I'm saying? We appreciate you, King. We appreciate you, Malcolm. But we still marching, nigga. We still motherfucking marching. You feel me? We still dreaming, nigga. Wake the fuck up. That's what it stands for me. It means stay woke, nigga. You know what I mean? That's what it means to me, man. Just stay woke, nigga. Keep your eyes open and your ears open, nigga. You know what I'm saying? This shit don't stop, nigga. It'll never stop, nigga. It won't be peace till we get a peace, nigga. Period. Period, nigga. We want our 40 acres in the mule, nigga. We want our retribution, nigga. We want our motherfucking land, nigga. You owe us. We want everything you owe us, nigga. And to the end, nigga, that's what we marching for. That's what we dreaming for, nigga. For shit like that. You know what I mean? That's what we doing, nigga. Off top.
I may not get there with you, but I want you to know tonight that we as a people will get to the promised land.
Human progress is neither automatic nor inevitable. Welcome to WatchMojo.com, and today we'll be learning more about the history of the American Civil Rights Movement. The end of the American Civil War in 1865 effectively meant the end of slavery, but African Americans were in for a long struggle before they were finally awarded equal rights. As of 1870, all eligible male citizens were able to vote. However, blacks were discouraged by violence and eventually legal stipulations. In 1896, the Supreme Court ruled to maintain racial segregation in private businesses in a case called Plessy versus Ferguson. Soon broadened to include schools, many southern states applied this separate but equal mentality to all aspects of life. However, this led to the application of Jim Crow laws, which resulted in blacks being treated as second-class citizens. Segregated schools, public transit, restrooms, water fountains, and more continued well into the 1900s. In 1909, a group of prominent black and white campaigners created the National Association for the Advancement of Colored People, or NAACP. Their goal was to increase racial equality and challenge issues like the Jim Crow laws. Unfortunately, it was between 1910 and 1930 that white supremacist group the Ku Klux Klan saw its biggest expansion amid increased racial friction. Following the First World War, the NAACP was devoted to ending lynching by white vigilantes. By mid-century, the group became instrumental in the Brown versus the Board of Education of Topeka court case. This class action suit, filed in 1951, asked that segregation in schools be struck down. Taken to the Supreme Court, the case resulted in the first integrated school in the United States to open in the fall of 1955. Encouraged by the decision, the civil rights movement began to hold high-profile boycotts, marches, sit-ins, and other peaceful protests. These included 1955's Montgomery bus boycott in support of Rosa Parks. A watershed moment came in 1957 when a high school in Arkansas admitted a group of African American students nicknamed the Little Rock Nine. Protested by fellow students, the governor, and even the state's National Guard, President Dwight Eisenhower eventually intervened to ensure the students' safe passage. By 1962, universities also began integrating, though black students were still met with protests and violence. The Southern Freedom Movement continued into the 60s with support from newly elected President John F. Kennedy and his brother, Attorney General Robert Kennedy. The violence of the Birmingham, Alabama campaign influenced the president to fully endorse the movement.
A great change is at hand, and our task, our obligation, is to make that revolution, that change, peaceful and constructive for all.
On June 19, 1963, he proposed a civil rights bill to Congress, which was approved in 1964 after his death with support from President Lyndon Johnson. The bill struck down existing legislation that allowed for discrimination, and its approval was largely influenced by Martin Luther King Jr. and the March on Washington of August 1963.
With this faith, we will be able to transform the jangling discourse of our nation into a beautiful symphony of brotherhood.
Capturing the attention of the media and the population, this event attracted hundreds of thousands of people in support of civil rights. Following Following that, the Voting Rights Act of 1965 ended the prejudiced voting system. Instantly effective, blacks began voting and running for public office. However, just days later, on August 11th, a violent six-day riot in the Los Angeles neighborhood of Watts resulted in 34 deaths. This was indicative of a period of racially motivated violence that occurred in the mid to late 1960s. This era also saw the rise of Black Power, led in large part by Stokely Carmichael, in opposition to extremists like the Ku Klux Klan. This ideology was exemplified by the Black Panther Party, which followed the principles set forth by Malcolm X. Rising to prominence in the 1950s, his radical ideas advocated militancy for blacks.
Black people are dissatisfied. They're dissatisfied not only with the white man, but they're dissatisfied with these Negroes who have been sitting around here posing as leaders and spokesmen for black people and actually making the problem worse instead of making the problem better.
He remained an influential and controversial human rights activist until his assassination in 1965. The murders of civil rights leaders continued when Martin Luther King Jr. was killed in April 1968 and Robert Kennedy 2 months later. Despite racial tensions continuing into the 1990s, progress has been measurable. The election of President Barack Obama in 2008 is seen by many to be a culmination of centuries of work in favor of racial equality.
This is the meaning of our liberty and our creed, why men and women and children of every race and every faith can join in celebration across this magnificent mall. Why a man whose father less than 60 years ago might not have been served at a local restaurant can now stand before you